Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Um, Obviously, not the best game week possible after going for two United players last week and having the game being suspended, but we do take it. Is this the Trent Alexander-Arnold captaincy stream? Not this week, no, unfortunately not. This is the Salah captaincy stream, the usual. Um, the one thing I'd say is just Newcastle such a poor defense that I'm sure Salah will explode if he plays. I think Salah has also never not hauled versus Newcastle, so that's one thing as well. Hello to everyone as well who's joining for the first time or just a recurrent viewer. Hope you guys are doing well. Start Sanchez or Ramsdale? Probably Sanchez, to be quite honest. Um, Hi, Fran. Start Livermore or Bissouma? Hmm. I'd probably just start Bissouma, to be quite honest, because Livermento's injured as well. I can't really see him getting a clean sheet again. Southampton has looked pretty terrible, and yeah, I'm not a big fan of Southampton as of late. Um, Let me just show you guys my team because I didn't actually do my team selection yet. So I actually brought in Dennis for Ronaldo, so you'll actually see that I have a lot of money in the bank. But I've already done a -4. The reason why is because Cornet is, I think, very obviously still injured. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think that worst case scenario he plays, or best case scenario he really plays a few minutes only in the game versus Watford. So that's why I've taken Cornet out of my team for Gallagher. And we know Crystal Palace have announced a clean bill of health when it comes to COVID. The fixtures are good. Gallagher also playing in a more of a 10-like position last week was why I've gone for Gallagher now. Unfortunately, the nightmare that was the Cornet injury horror story has ended, but we have to kind of move on. De Gea is someone I'm definitely keeping this week. I just can't really see why on a week where Ramsdale has a little bit of a rough game, I would like to move out of De Gea necessarily for a -4. So that's my logic for keeping De Gea. Dalot stays in the team as well. Um, Fixtures are still good. I imagine they can keep some clean sheets during this run. Main thing being here is when you look at their opponents, is none of them are too lethal from attack. So that's kind of the positive during this kind of next 5 games here, and then obviously another beautiful run post West Ham. So that's why I'm keeping Dalot for now. Better to kind of keep it safe with defense. The one cheap defender that I mentioned on my cheat sheet that I really like is Ait Nouri. If you guys are looking for replacements for Livramento, I definitely think he's an option to go to this week, especially since Dalot is not playing. So that's kind of one factor there. Dennis has been brought on, as I mentioned. There is an opportunity for me to go for a Man City midfielder, and the way I'd like to do that is actually probably by going Sterling or Foden in place of Mendy if I want to play aggressive and go for a -4. Let me know what you guys think about that, and I'll think about that. I'm just going to quickly read the chats now and just see what's going on now that I've kind of explained my team selection briefly. I'll keep it here for now while I actually go through some of the YouTube comments. So Harold says, "Hey, Fran." Hey, Harold, hope you're doing. Nobsio says, I guess I will keep Ronaldo. That's fair enough. I think it's a weird situation because as a Ronaldo owner, you have to realize that with so many kind of possibilities of games being suspended during this period and us not having, at least in the real world, not having the like the correct way to respond to the virus, I think it's very sensible to actually move out of Ronaldo and go deeper into the midfield. Alex Riley says, thank you so much for the donation, by the way, Alex. Really, really appreciate it. Rashford to Foden free transfer. I really love that move. As I mentioned myself, even though I don't have a free transfer, I really want to move into a Foden or a Sterling. I think Foden is a very logical choice. He should be rested enough to play this Leeds game. And that is what I really believe in. And when we were watching Rashford versus Norwich, even though he did seem quite direct at times, he just wasn't that interesting, to be honest, from an FPL asset, considering he is so high priced. I think Rashford is clearly very overpriced. This United sign aren't building enough chances for Rashford to be worthwhile. Meanwhile, Foden is, we know he's an underlying stat monster, but when you watch Foden play, I think you'd be very happy to own Foden in your team so long as he actually plays. That's the one main thing. It's similar to Jota, where as long as he plays, you're happy to have Foden in your team. I think Foden should be fine. It seems like he's fit, and I think it's a very sensible transfer this week. Um, the one thing I'll say about Man City midfielders this week, and I don't think it really applies to you, Alex, because you have a free transfer, but in the context of myself, for when I'm moving out of my if I took a -4, for example, to go into Foden this week, is I think Leeds always play a very great game versus Man City, and the way they play is so unique that it seems like City as a team aren't necessarily set up well to beat them. So that is the one thing that is kind of pushing me against maybe going for Foden for a -4, especially since I already have 10 playing players. So we'll see what happens there. Triple captain. So I actually think it's a good move this week to triple captain Salah. The one thing that is a big detriment for me is that, first of all, we have a lot of double game weeks now, and we also have a lot of potential impacts with Salah maybe getting rested because he has been playing consistently, and that's my one fear. Salah, of course, is an extremely fit player, so I think you'd be happy to triple captain him if you really want to go for it this week. I don't think it's a crazy move. I think Newcastle are by far and above the worst defense now, especially since the manager change for Norwich, because we have seen that Norwich's defensive stats have improved a lot lately, and that for me is a big signifier as to why you would like to go for a triple captaincy if you want to do that. I personally wouldn't. I think there's just plenty of double game weeks where we can apply some chips. There's going to be blank blank weeks as well in the near future. Arguably, this is a blank week, so I know some people are looking at free hits. It really depends on what your team situation is. I'm just going to quickly go through some chats though. Play White or Ben Davies? I would probably prefer playing Ben Davies this week. Ryan Parker says, how's it going, man? Thinking running out to invest around the team. Completely agree with that. Robbie Start says, do you think Bernardo and Foden double is good? I actually think it's very solid. We have very good games for Man City. The only thing is that with the COVID situation, let's say if there is a case in Man City and the game gets suspended, going for triple ups is going to be really, really tough for a lot of players. Zimmy has given a donation. Thank you so much, Zimmy. Worth a -4 to get Ronaldo out, possibly Benteke in. What I don't like about Benteke is that he seems to be rested quite often. So I would prefer going for someone like a Watkins or a Dennis or a King. The reason why is because Benteke seems to be rotated with Edouard, and even though Benteke really has good underlying numbers, I wouldn't say he necessarily passes the eye test. The fixtures are nice, and we know Southampton are there for the taking. But I just haven't been that impressed with Benteke, and I feel like if, let's say, you look at the goals that Arsenal scored in open play, maybe Benteke gets one of those chances, but I'm not convinced about the value of him as an asset long term, especially if you're taking Ronaldo out of your team. Villa defenders, I am more towards the art. I actually think that Mings is probably the best defender to get from Villa. I know people think Matty Cash is super logical, but you can't use James Tavernier as an example to say that Matty Cash is great. If you look at Matty Cash's underlying statistics under Gerrard, yes, they've been playing tough games, but he has been creating enough for me to be worthwhile. I'm just going to quickly go through some other comments as well. Do you prefer Watkins or Gallagher? I prefer Gallagher. Jota new in the bench. Is there a confirmation of that report? -8 though, Sterling to Smith Rowe and CR7 to Watkins. I think those are good moves. Are you moving out of Sterling though? Or am I confused? Do you mean that you're moving out of Smith Rowe into Sterling? If that's the case, that's quite a nice move, having Sterling and Watkins this week. Keep Vardy. Yes, I'd probably keep Vardy because the Tottenham team, we don't exactly know what XI they'll put out. They could have a lot of players who have COVID because we know that they have a long list of players who have COVID, and that could really impact their starting 11. So that should be a nice game for Vardy, especially since he's rested. And in a game week where so many people are missing games, you don't want to be taking a player out who has an okay fixture and is quite a consistent player as long as he plays. Have Livra, Tony, and Cancelo bench? Do you need to free transfer? I don't think so necessarily, because as long as you actually have a starting 11, I think that's the best you can hope for this week, and that's what you should play around with this week. People are asking Gundogan to Sterling. I think if you really don't have any problems this week, that's fine. Jetro says, hey Fran, what do you think about Ronaldo, Rafinha, and Bumo to King, Foden, and Gallagher for a -8? I think those are good moves in general. The one thing I would say is that I actually quite like keeping Rafinha in my team. If you notice that my prospective move, if I was to go for a -4, is actually to just drop my 4.5 midfielder and then actually incorporate a midfield 5. More points if I triple captain in double game weeks. I think so, yes, but there is also a chance that in double game weeks that Salah gets rested. What do you think about free hit? I think free hit's a fantastic chip if you have issues this week. Keep in mind though, with the short turnaround of the fixtures, especially with the weekend games coming, a lot of United players might be struggling with maybe another postponement because we don't know how much this COVID situation is going to develop over the next few days with United. I think a free hit is sensible if you have a lot of players out. Let's say if you literally have like 7 players that won't be playing this week, then I think it's justified. Maybe 6 or 7. Hello, mate. Got 2 free transfers. Would you keep Kane this week or go with someone like Dennis and free up cash for another midfielder like Silva? I would definitely go out of Kane this week. I really think that there is no reason for us to be holding anything above maybe Vardy at the limit, but we know Vardy gets rested, so it's not even nice to own Vardy. So at that point, really, anything below Jesus for me is the absolute cap that you would go for with the forwards this season. And as we go forth, I think it makes sense to have as many midfielders as possible, Andrew. So I would definitely do that move. I like the move to go for Silva. I'm a little bit more keen towards Foden, but you might have a difference in opinion. I still think Bernardo's a great move, so that's totally fine. I am keeping De Gea and Steele this week. I explained that I don't think it's the best fixture for Ramsdale, and Ramsdale's the only keeper I would ever move De Gea out, and I'm not going to take a -4 to get out of Steele to go for something like a Bachmann. Ait Nouri or Lamptey. I would actually prefer Ait Nouri right now because it seems like Ait Nouri plays much more consistently. Lamptey does get rested a little bit. And we know that Brighton have actually lost a key player in recent weeks in Dunk, which is going to be a huge defensive impact on the team. Wolves don't Wolves by contrast have a clean bill of health in that defensive backline. They look extremely solid. They've just played Liverpool and City, only conceding 1 goal each and a dodgy penalty, mind you, versus City. I think Ait Nouri is a great pick. Play White or Ben Davies. I would definitely go for playing Ben Davies this week because there's a chance that he gets COVID and then White plays anyways, but I prefer the fixture for Davies. Thoughts on Watkins? I like Watkins, but I'm more tempted towards spending my money towards the midfielders, and that's kind of my situation. Double Liverpool fullback for the future. I actually think so. That's a good shout. Robertson might be a better place to spend your money. We have actually someone on our Discord called Jack who plays with Robertson right now instead of Jota, and he's done extremely well the last few weeks. And you'll notice that when Liverpool are dominating games, it's so easy for Robertson and Trent to farm these bonus points, which is a huge plus to say that maybe Robertson or Van Dijk makes sense, especially when you look at where their points are situated right now compared to other defenders. I think Van Dijk has already surpassed other defenders in the league so far, and as the season progresses, I imagine things will stay the same for Liverpool, who look so well oiled. Foden and Bernardo double up, totally fine for me. Ronaldo should be a sell. I think that during this kind of COVID fixture period, we need as many strong bench players as possible. It's been proven where so many people have been getting nice little hauls from players off the bench that you kind of need a strong bench. We have the option to go for strong benches as well because we have players like Dennis and King who are so cheap, and that should incentivize us to do that. Not only that, but Ronaldo really only holds a specific efficient place in our team from a mathematic point of view if you captain him quite often. So with exception to the Newcastle game, which is a great opportunity to captain Ronaldo, Salah should be a perma captain for the rest of us this season. You might choose to move away from Salah, but you'll notice as well that usually when we move away from Salah, I mean, we've seen defenders as well being interesting hauls, things like that. And I just think that you don't necessarily need to have Ronaldo to hedge against Salah. I think it's perfectly fine to diversify your team, strengthen all your assets, and then play around as Salah perma captain. So long as he's fit. And even around the AFCON period, you have someone like Son who can be replacing Salah permanently, or at least short term. -12 last week for triple Manu. Same situation here, but over the last 2 weeks. Is it worth running another -8 to go Cornet to Foden to attack this Leeds fixture? 5 red arrows in a row now to 11 games. So sorry about that, Finn. So I've also been struggling quite a bit lately, unfortunately, due to the Cornet injury. I definitely think it's worth moving out of Cornet this week for you because Cornet doesn't seem like he's ready to play, and I wouldn't really want to have Cornet in my team. Sam G says, would you do Livramento to cash for another hit? Means I'm taking a -8. I mean, I would like to ask you if you have a bench this week. That's my first question. Jesus isn't starting according to the league team. That's fair enough. I'm not really interested in Jesus myself. Lukaku and Gallagher or Lacazette and Mount. I'm not a big fan of going for any big strikers, Ahmed. That's just my opinion. I like Mount, I like Gallagher, but I don't really like Lukaku or Lacazette. You can clearly see that Lukaku hasn't been incorporated well into the side, and even though Arsenal has nice fixtures, I'm not so sure if Lacazette is a consistent starter or a consistent player himself to warrant the amount of money that we would be putting in him. Thanks, Fran. When do you think you'll be being in a Man City fixture for their good run? I mean, it could be this week. If I'm feeling daring, sometime during the stream, I could go into a Man City midfielder. I'll be going to Twitter questions for a second. Yogi Raj says, "Hey Fran, hey Yogi, how are you doing? Teja says, double up Foden and Jesus this game week. I'd probably avoid Jesus. I like Foden, and I actually like the other midfielders a little bit more just because I think they're better value for money than Jesus. Ronaldo and Brownhill to Watkins and Gallagher for -4. I think those are very justified moves, Rico. I really like that. Really safe, really solid, especially since Palace don't have COVID issues for now. And then Watkins has a nice fixture as well, and Ronaldo doesn't get to play, with Brownhill's minutes being limited potentially. Gilmore to Bernardo for -4. I think that's justified. Go for it. Do we think Reguilon is starting? I have no kind of sources in terms of Spurs, and that's why I'm not really tempted. Who would you start this game week, Antonio or Lacazette? I would probably actually start Antonio, even though he's been really out of form. I think he can be quite an explosive game, and probably both teams will score. That's my prediction for the game. Yogi Raj says, hey, I have 10 players playing this week. Should I take King for Tony for a -4 hit? I think that's a good move. Hi, Fran. Who to start, Livramento or White for Cancelo? I would probably go for White, in my opinion. Sam Teller says, hey, Fran, Ronaldo to Watkins for free gives a full 11 with Liver and Brownhill on bench, or could swap Brownhill for -4 and bench King. I would definitely just play, I would just go for Watkins and just play it like that. It's a bad idea to bench CR7. Hope he starts this weekend. I mean, it's up to you, right? If you really want Ronaldo for the Newcastle fixture as an example, and you want to roll a transfer or something like this, then it makes sense to do that. And then maybe you can address whatever COVID situations are a little bit easier than the rest of the league. But you will be missing a kind of key opportunity to have maybe cheaper defenders. And this is kind of, or forwards rather, and this is a nice opportunity to have a good excuse to move out of Ronaldo, if that makes sense. I already have Dennis. Do I sell Ronaldo for King or Watkins? And between Jota and Bernardo, let's have a look. So I think Watkins is a nice move. I've gone for the double Watford because I personally would like to go 5 midfielder and go 5 midfield strong. Maybe even upgrade another defender in the future. But that's just up to me. I think Watkins is good if you don't, let's say, own someone like an Antonio in your team, or if you'd like to actually see Aston Villa, succeed during this run and you actually think they've been doing well. I don't actually think Aston Villa are doing that well in terms of creating consistent chances for someone like Watkins. But it's up to you. Is Villa versus Norwich not postponed because of COVID issues? Is that true, guys? Has that game been postponed? So actually, let's look at some Twitter questions. I did consider Nuri, but his fixtures after are a concern for me. I could take a punt with Laka. I would not be in concern for Ronaldo, which would free up funds, maybe. I mean, I think Lacazette would be a very, very out there differential. I think it's very nice with the Alba news that you can go for Lacazette, maybe. He could be a short-term move. I just don't think from the eye test that Lacazette's looking that good. But if you actually have a lot of funds in your team and you want to play around with it short-term, then that's okay with me. But it's up to you. I probably wouldn't advise it. -8 done to have Watkins, King, Guehi, Opinion, plus or Sanchez. Are you kind of asking me which fixture I'd like to target? I would actually probably go for Sanchez because Jimenez is out, and I think that there are good opportunities for Sanchez to get a clean sheet. Brighton squad don't include Dunk, Duffy, Webster. No, I agree with that completely, and that's another kind of thing that's in favor of Wolves. But Wolves have really struggled to create chances, and if you have watched Wolves lately, really Jimenez is the only kind of consistent attacker who's actually providing any sort of output, whether it's underlying stats or whether it's actually on the pitch in terms of goals. So I really don't think there's a wrong decision there. I'd probably be more happy to play Sanchez, but it's up to you. Sa is someone who gets quite a few save points, and Brighton aren't the most clinical team. So I think the higher ceiling option is Sa, but I think the lower risk option is Sanchez. Jordan's, how about Lacazette instead of King? I mean, a lot of people have actually been mentioning Lacazette. It seems like you guys are very fond of Lacazette. That could be a good option. Why not, actually? Yeah. If you have this much money in your bank anyways, then that's totally fine with me. Sante, so I'm willing to take out Tony and Cornet this weekend for a -4, but struggling to decide on who to fill the spots between King/Dennis and Mount Bernardo. So one thing I would also mention is that Gallagher's quite interesting, but if you want to go for Mount and Bernardo, maybe Mount is a little bit more interesting because I think Everton look quite dire lately. The thing with City is that I actually think City and Leeds is quite a tough matchup sometimes, so maybe Bernardo won't effectuate this specific fixture too much. As far as the Tony spot, I mean, people have mentioned going for Watkins, which I think is a good choice. You could just go for Dennis though, which you've mentioned yourself. FPL Harold, what do? Already use my free transfer, have 0.3 in the bank. So I guess the thing is that Gilmore could come in to the side. Ronaldo's obviously out. I'd probably I would question, your team structure. Probably ask yourself whether you actually want to keep Ronaldo, and what the benefits would be if you moved out of Ronaldo this week. If you moved out of Ronaldo, I think you get that playing 11. Then you actually have the chance to actually upgrade something like, for example, Mendy in your team here could be easily moved out of your squad, and that would be quite a big benefit. Um, Abdul, so hi Frank, you're going to do a free hit for this game week. Okay, let's have a look. So Rudiger, interesting. Zinchenko, interesting. Arnold, Salah, Foden, Jota, Mount, Gallagher, Watkins, Dennis. I think this is a great team. I like it, yeah. Really, really do like it. Yassine, hey Fran, thoughts on my team? I'm really tempted to downgrade. Oh gosh, sorry guys. I haven't been responding on the right tab. My bad. My bad, guys. Sorry, but I hope for the people that I was speaking to, it makes sense. Definitely think Lacazette's a good pick. So just to summarize, and then I think Sante has said that replacing Cornet with Gallagher is interesting, but if you really want to go between one and Mount, one of Mount and Bernardus, I would have said Mount, and then I would prefer Dennis at this point in time, just because the last match we did see King play left wing, and Dennis is now playing centre forward, which is actually probably going to benefit his kind of output. In terms of Yassine, I think I was just about to respond to that, but in terms of Harold, I did mention that I would just put the question back to you and ask if you want to go out of Ronaldo this week, and have a look at maybe options like Watkins, or even going further down in downgrades, just to kind of think about how you'd replace Mendy in the subsequent week. Um, let's just go back. I think I missed someone's team. Yep, Yassine's team. So let's have a look at Yassine. He says he's really tempted to downgrade Ronaldo to Watkins, maybe take a hit for David De Gea out, Ramsdale. I would avoid the hit for David De Gea out. I would definitely go out of Ronaldo this week. I would, as I said to a few people who have Ronaldo in their teams, I think this is a great fixture to actually consider moving into the midfield, and that starts with downgrading Ronaldo to another forward. So I would say consider one of Watkins. Probably I wouldn't avoid. I wouldn't go for Antonio because you already have Bone in your team, and maybe even King is a consideration. But I like Watkins. Even Pookie is an interesting option if you really don't like the Watford double up. GOAT status. What do I do? One transfer. So Cancelo doesn't play. Marcel doesn't play. Benrahma is not the most interesting of options, but he's not a problem this week because he is playing. I think just because you actually don't have three playing defenders, the most reasonable option for you is to drop Marcel and probably go for Ait Nouri. I think is quite a good side grade, and unfortunately you have to do it because you don't have three playing defenders. You might even want to go out of Livramento this week as well if you want to strengthen your defense, but that's really up to you. I think there's probably a chance he plays. It didn't seem like Hassan Hutel explained that the injury was that rough, but definitely moving out of Marcel might be the move this week since you actually have a good bench, and I wouldn't really encourage going for hits to kind of improve the rest of your team at this point in time since they all have relatively good fixtures. Um, did I miss Sean's team? Yep. So Sean, hey Fran, asking for a friend. Who are the best replacements for Ronaldo and Broja? So I wouldn't necessarily take Broja out now. I wasn't actually listening to Hassan Hutel's thoughts on Broja. I don't know how extensive the injury is. If it is extensive, then I think Dennis is a very simple option because your friend doesn't have Dennis. As far as Ronaldo, I think it's quite easy to go for Watkins because you should still have a lot of money in the bank, given that you have Davis on your team. Aman Khan says, hey, Fran, I'm not sure whether to do Ronaldo and Mendy to Watkins and Foden or to get Pookie and potentially get Sterling over Gundo as well. I actually like Foden and Watkins a lot more, so that's a nice transfer. One free transfer, 0.9 in the bank. Antonio for Ronaldo, what to do with Gundogan? So I think Gundogan is a side grade in the future, but due to the impact of this game week and you not having playing players this week, I don't think you touch Gundogan this week. Unfortunately, you probably have to just address Ronaldo. I'm not sure about Antonio this week. I would actually prefer Antonio the next week. Maybe you could actually take Hwang out for Antonio in the subsequent week. As far as Ronaldo, though, I think Watkins is a good way to attack the fixture if you don't want to go for Dennis. So I'm going to quickly go back to YouTube chat for now and have a look at what's going on. Ben White or Dennis as the first sub? Probably Dennis definitely as the first sub, my friend. Fran, should I do -4 and double up Watford forwards by selling Ronaldo? I've actually done that. And yeah, I've definitely seen you around, Greg. So that's a good move. Tomiyasu to Robertson. I think that's a great move if you actually don't have three Liverpool players. Robertson has been hauling a lot of bonus points. He also looks quite good in open play. Obviously, Trent is the priority. If you don't have Trent, I definitely would recommend going for Trent first. But if you already have Trent and you actually don't like Jota as an option, then fair enough. If you want to go a little bit outside of the book, go for Robertson. Ronaldo to Watkins for -4. That's totally fine. Dread missing out on a Watkins 12-pointer. That's a good point, but I don't think Norwich have been a very poor defense lately, guys. That's the one consolation that I would say if you're worried about missing on Watkins. I just don't think Norwich have been a bad defense whatsoever. Should you use your free transfer on Steer to Bachmann? I think that could be a good move if you really don't have any issues with your squad. That's not a bad choice. Walker is definitely a good option for sure. Please check your DM. I'll have a look very quickly. Anka says, I'm down to 10 players, including Livermento. Any under 5 mil keepers worth a hit. Maybe Bachmann could do it because Burnley, if they're missing Cornet, have really struggled to score lately. So let's have a look at Burnley. So if we look at Burnley, the last 3 matches in a row, they have not been able to score. So if you want to target a team right now, basically, since Cornet has been out of the side, right? Which is of course extremely sad because I'm a Cornet owner myself. You'll notice that this team has not been able to really score without Cornet in the team. I wouldn't say he's the sole reason for that, but I think if there's a fixture you want to target for a clean sheet, maybe you want to replace that kind of second keeper in your team. I think Bachmann's a great option, but that still means that you're basically spending -4 for a keeper. I wouldn't say it's necessarily advised, but if you want to give it a go, and you want a suggestion for someone who I think will get a clean sheet this week, then I think it will definitely be Bachmann. Let's just quickly have a look at some other questions. Oh god, I'm using the wrong tab, right? Sorry. Let me just quickly show you guys Burnley again. Burnley, West Ham. So basically, we'll see that Burnley have had 3 clean sheets in a row. Sorry, have not scored 3 games in a row, and this is the last game that they scored where Cornet was a big impactful factor there. So that has been a little bit of a huge miss for Burnley, and they really haven't been creating significant chances whatsoever lately. So I think it's a good time to have a look at Burnley and maybe attacking them from a clean sheets point of view. Let's have a look quickly at some of the Twitter questions. So Damien says, 1 free transfers or 1 out in the bank. Antonio for Ronaldo, what to do with Gundogan? Oh yes, I ever responded to that. So maybe Foden or Gallagher for Basuma for -4 hit. I don't think that's a bad move. So I guess you want to play like a 3-5-2 this week, right? Is that the goal? I think that's a good play. Yeah, that's a good play. I'd be quite happy with that because I think Foden has a really nice fixture. Chirag, so pick your starting 11. Rafinha Antonio is going to be a big question for a lot of people who still have him in their teams this week. I'd be more tempted to go for Antonio if I was being honest. But that's up to you. I'm going to quickly go back to the questions. Hi, Celine. Hope you're doing well. Keep Alonso or get Walker in. I still think you keep Alonso for the Everton fixture because it's a good fixture to keep Chelsea for now, and it's not a pressing issue because Alonso should be playing that match. Ante says, best defender to replace Livermento with, I think 10.8 mil to use. Okay. My first question is, who do you have in your defense first? If you already have players like, let's say, Cancelo, Trent, and Alonso or James or even Rudiger, I'd probably say maybe Walker is a good option to get as a 4th defender if you want to do that. However, if you want to keep towards having a budget defender, I would say Ait-Nouri is a good pick. Jota or Foden, I would definitely say Jota in for the Newcastle game. I think it's a better fixture to attack. Best replacement for Rico Henry up to 4.5. I really like Ait-Nouri. I think White is quite a safe option. The issue with Dyer and Davies is I have no idea how extensive the COVID impacts are to Spurs in terms of how that impacts their starting 11. So that's why I would be tempted to not go for Dyer Davies at this point in time. What did the chat say, Rafinha or Antonio? That's a good question as well. Check my Twitter message out. I will do it in a quick second. Hey, Fran, do you think MC and CP can see this game week? I don't think It's a tough question. I think they could because we've seen that Leeds have always given a great game to Man City. It's always been really scruffy. If I remember last year, it was 1-1 and 1-2. Leeds winning one game and drawing the other. So I'd be tempted to say Man City could lose their clean sheet. As far as Crystal Palace, I think they have a good chance to keep their clean sheet. Southampton look very dire. They've lost a lot of players recently to injury, so that's quite a nice positive there. Is Villa versus Norwich going to be postponed? Because I want to take a hit for a Villa player. At this point in time, I don't think so. It doesn't seem like the COVID situation is that extensive for both teams. By the way, if you guys are here, I really appreciate if you could like the video and also just drop a subscription if you guys would like. As far as questions, Geronimus says, "Hey mate, love the content. Will I have 11 players? Bench Rice, rest of team, Ramsdale, Trent, Rudiger, Alonso. Yep, that's 4 players. White, that's even 5. You're more than fine. And you know that yourself as well." Great to bone, or like I don't think there's anything you can do in this situation to address you don't have any players from active teams that we know are going to be close to dealing with postponements and things like that. So you just rock with that team. I think you're in such a lovely position. I'd be quite jealous to be in yours. Smither says, great to Bowen or Gundogan to. I wouldn't go for Bowen this week. I don't think it makes sense unless you're going from Bowen to Gray to attack the future Everton fixtures. But Gundogan to Foden. I think the side grade to Foden is quite nice this week. Foden, Watkins, 1.3 in the bank. Foden, Pookie, 3.0 in the bank. Sterling and Pookie, 0.4 in the back. I would prefer Foden and Watkins. I think that's a much better dynamic duo than Sterling and Pookie. What should I do with Smith Rowe and Odegaard? The thing with Pookie lately is he has been getting some chances, but I don't think he's been getting very consistent chances and not the best of chances. Not enough for me to say that it's justified to go for Pookie at this point in time. When you contrast that to, for example, this Watford team who are actually creating a lot more chances, I would say Pookie doesn't make too much sense when he's so close to Dennis and King in price. And then if we go back to the question about Sterling versus Foden, yes, there's a price difference, but that's exactly why you have it, because you have quite a good player in Watkins instead. What should you do with Smith Rowe, Bowen, or Odegaard? I think Odegaard is someone you'd like to start this week. Maybe you'd like to bench Smith Rowe, and I'd probably play Bowen in this match. Just because maybe there's a chance that Smith, like for example, Arsenal could field the same lineup, which would leave Smith Rowe on the bench, which is my main concern. Foden or Bernardo? I would say Foden this week. That's my choice. Liverpool defenders except Trent. Yeah, I would just go for Robertson if you have enough money. Depends on your situation. Obviously, Van Dijk is the next best option, and no other options make sense. Is it worth to replace Ronaldo for -4? Do you think the match with Brighton will be also postponed? I think it is worth taking him out. You have no idea how the COVID situation will develop. I think that the match with Brighton will go on. But I don't think United are creating enough chances to justify having Ronaldo in our team. Is it worth to? Yeah, sorry. I replaced James with Diaz due to James being 1 yellow card away from a match ban. Would you agree with the move? I would agree with the move, but I think a lot of players are also very aware of when they're actually close to suspension. So a good example would be someone like Callum Wilson, who racked up a lot of yellow cards early on in the season, and a lot of people were tempted to not go for him. I would go for Jota Gorilla. There's no need to type in full caps, my friend. But yeah, just going back to the question, I would definitely say that it's a good move because I don't think Diaz is a bad choice necessarily, or at all really. It's just that I do think James is a keeper. Yes, he's been looking terrible lately from a FPL assets point of view, but I don't think much has really changed from him lately. Sam says going Wilson to Dennis / Benteke and a 3.9 defender to Zinchenko. The worry about Zinchenko for me is that he is quite costly, and then he is not really guaranteed too many minutes. I'm sure Walker will find his way back into the side quite quickly, but maybe we'll see what happens there. What do you think about possibly going for Benteke? Yeah, the issue with Benteke is that he is more of a pick where you're clearly trying to attack the fixtures, and he has a chance of being rested, which is why I'm not a big fan of Benteke. What is a rest? How long is the Vardy rest? Is he playing today? When we say rest, it just means that let's say a player of Vardy's age really struggles to play consistently every 2 to 3 days, which is what happens in the fixture congestion. I think Vardy's playing today, though. What of Smith Rowe? Smith Rowe is a little bit of a worry for me because I think there could be a chance that he might be benched. Hey, Fran, hope you're well. I have made my transfers for a -4 hit out of Gallagher for Smith Rowe. Yeah, I think that's a good choice. Guehi for Liverpool, also another good choice. You only have Smith Rowe on the bench. So you have ASM on the bench. I wouldn't go for the -8, my friend. Triple captaining Salah this game week. Here's hoping for a few goals. Best of luck to you, Scott. Bench King or Smith Rowe? Probably bench Smith Rowe. I think Foden is interesting. Fixture challenge, bench King or Bowen? I'd probably be tempted to bench Bowen. Yeah, I'll have a look at your message, guys, on Twitter for now. So, Rishab, sell Ronaldo for -4. Just play white this game week. I think if you can actually escape without the -4, then it's kind of worth it for you. You already have the forwards that people would like to have, so maybe you can adjust Ronaldo, when you have more future problems. The issue is that maybe Smith Rowe might not play, but we'll see what happens there. Irakli, hi Fran, think of De Gea to Guaita. I wouldn't go for the De Gea to Guaita move. I know it's a great fixture for Guaita, but in reality, De Gea has lovely fixtures after that. You have no idea exactly what the situations are. Crystal Palace have also been a little bit leaky in defense, and just in terms of, dropping their heads at times, and that's my kind of worry. I like the King move. Ronaldo to De Gea, Dennis is a good move as well. I'd probably only make one of those moves. I could also drop Dallo. I mean, how many hits are you kind of proposing here? Because there's a lot of suggestions, but I think when I look at your team, I'd be happy to play Williams, happy to play Alonso, happy to play Trent, happy to play Tomiyasu. That's 4 players. Smith Rowe arguably might not play. We have at least 4 midfielders, so that's 8 players. Then we have Antonio, so we have 9 at the very, very least. And then I would just say you make a move around Ronaldo, probably go for Dennis instead, and I think you kind of live with De Gea for now. Just because if we think about keepers as more medium to long term prospects, yeah, I that's fine if you're talking separate transfers. I would just go out of Ronaldo this week, maybe to Dennis. I could go with Mendy to Gallagher, meaning I would have taken a -8 thoughts, or I could go with Liverpool to Diaz and get Bowen next week. Let's think about the team. So we play Young, we play Rudiger, we play Trent. That's 3 players. De Gea's not playing. That's unfortunate. We have Salah, Bernardo, Jota. That's fine, and we have Gilmore. So that's 4. So we have 8 players at this point in time. So we have 7. Then we play Antonio King, Dennis. So we have 10. I actually think you should be fine without going for Gallagher this week. Unfortunately. I just prefer if you avoided the hit. I'm not sure if Gallagher is going to explode necessarily on Southampton. If you want to do it and attack the fixture, I think it's fine. But for a -8, I'm not sure if it's worth it. I also don't really think it's a good move. I would actually prefer the Mendy to Gallagher move if you want to play aggressively. That's totally fine with me. I would be less inclined to go for Livramento Diaz just because I think Leeds have always given City quite a tough matchup. And even though Calvin Phillips is out, I don't really think that changes structurally how Leeds would play. A lot of people were making the same kind of argument for how Chelsea was getting a clean sheet last week. And look what happened. Leeds ended up scoring 2 goals. And they were very deserving 2 goals as well. Rob's is saying looking to get Mendy out. Yep. Okay, I see. I would actually probably go for Ramsdale easily. But the thing is, Mendy has a nice fixture, so I would like to keep Ramsdale now. I would roll the transfer if I was in your situation. Because I would go for a roll, and then I would go next week for Ramsdale. So this person is saying, what the hell to do is this? I was thinking Ronaldo plus Tony to Antonio and Watkins and also upgrade Llorente to get playing back free would be a -8, by the way. Could also transfer Ronaldo plus Llorente and save the Tony transfer next week to avoid the -8, but the bench will be really bad. Fair point. So Tony should come back on the weekend. So that's a nice situation. I think the thing about Ronaldo is that it's a good opportunity to get out of Ronaldo and maybe strengthen your midfield. You can actually upgrade Douglas Luiz if you, let's say, downgrade Ronaldo now. And if you, let's say, play the defense, obviously you probably need to replace Livramento first just to get that back 3. I would definitely say, I don't think, I would probably advise Rudiger and James, to be quite honest. I know James is close to the suspension, so it sounds crazy, but I wouldn't mind going for Rudiger versus Everton. If you don't really want to go for a Chelsea player, then and you want to keep it kind of light in terms of the way your team looks defensively, then I would just go for Ait Nouri as a pick, or maybe because you already have Ramsdale in your team, so I don't really like the double up with White. And then I would actually do that. If you want to take additional hits to get Ronaldo out, obviously just to get a playing team, the situation is probably, well, there's one option. You can go for Douglas Luiz and just play him. The alternative is you go for someone like Watkins as well, to replace Ronaldo as an example. So it's up to you whether you want to be more aggressive with your hits. Johnny Barlow says, what are you thinking? I'm thinking Tony to King, Armstrong to Watkins, and I'm stuck. Well, I think once you do those 2 moves, you should be fine. I would prefer that you do that. The one thing I would say is that, yeah, once again, the Livramento situation, probably worth it to take at least one of the defenders out so you can actually have a playing back 3 this week. Probably at this point take out Livramento because Duffy's price isn't going to change. Livramento's price could be subject to change. So maybe you maximize on Livramento the fact that you've done really well with him. price-wise, and you go out of Livramento, maybe just go for Ait Nuri, who has a nice matchup. I think the Brighton Wolves game, for example, could be a very obvious like 0-0 game potentially, and then maybe you go out of Armstrong, because it seems like his injury is quite significant, and then Tony can come back on the weekend and play. That's a good option. And then yeah, you make a decision between Des and King, or Armstrong to Watkins if you'd like to do that as well. Um, I see what you mean though, because you want to get Tony out so you can actually play Watkins. It's a tough situation. How can you actually afford Watkins in the structure, by the way? Oh, because you have to do 2 moves at once. Yeah, that's fair enough. Can you actually afford that though? I thought Watkins was 7.5. I'm a little bit confused as to how you have the money in the bank to do that. Just going back to YouTube. Ings or Watkins? Probably Watkins. But I believe when I was actually looking at Watkins' stats that they actually do deflate a little bit when he plays alongside Ings, which is not a big problem. Thoughts on Mount? I think Mount is a fantastic option, and he's clearly a big talisman for Chelsea. If you actually have Mount in your team, I think you'd be very happy to own Mount. Mount is a great buy. 100% agree. Is Sanchez playing or Steele? No idea. It seems like Sanchez might have COVID, which is the rumor, which means that Steele would play. I have no idea on that. I don't think it really matters because if you have both in your team, then you're fine. Should you take a -4 to get out of ESR for Odegaard, Bowen, or Gallagher? So I think it's up to you, really. So Bowen has nice fixtures after this Arsenal match, so that's why I wouldn't really take a -4 for now to get out of Smith Rowe to go for Bowen. I like Gallagher to attack the fixture, and then Odegaard is a bit of a side translation, so I'm not sure if I would go for that this week. I kind of like Gallagher this week if you really want to move out of Smith Rowe. Yeah, much love to everyone as well. If you guys are new here, please drop a like on the video. Appreciate that. Do you need to take Mount for Smith Rowe? I think it's a good move, but do you need to do it? Not necessarily, no. Bench Brandon Williams or Livramento? I'd probably bench Livramento. -4 for Gundogan to Bernardo. I think that's an okay move, just because of the news that we heard with Gundogan lately. But Pep did say that everyone was Pep did say that everyone in City was actually fit. I'm never going to advise going for Timo Werner, but that's up to you. If you have to choose triple cap Salah now or later, I think it's a good move. I think it's a good move. But I wouldn't do it myself. Like if someone told me that they were going to do it, I think it's fine. Newcastle are the worst defensive team in the league. But would I do it? Just due to the fixture congestion, that's my main worry for Salah. So I would say probably wait for double game week. Dennis or King, if you're transferring now, probably Dennis. Based on next 4 game weeks, would you rather have Alonso or Diaz? I definitely have Diaz in my team. I'm going to quickly check the messages. JLVM, so I have one free transfer, moderately okay squad for this week. Is it worth using my only transfer on steer to Bachmann or Sanchez and get rid of Vardy and Mbeumo upcoming weeks? I would just roll. Honestly, I would just roll. I would just roll if you had this team, unfortunately, and just live with the situation. Coley says 0.4 in the bank, one transfer. I'm lost on what to do. One transfer I think I'll do is steal to Bachmann, otherwise lost. Maybe Ronaldo to a forward and Mendy to a City mid, but really not a fan of hits. And if Ronaldo plays in the weekend, I would like to keep him. What would you do in this position? So you seem to have a playing 10 minus Livramento. Obviously, Basuma is a bit of a problem. 0.4 in the bank is a bit tricky because it kind of keeps a rigid structure. The thing with Ronaldo is obviously to take him out, you have to kind of take a hit. That would mean that at least you would be able to not play Livramento. Because if you think about it, if you take a -4 for Ronaldo, you can actually play a forward and then you can play Basuma, and you can have a very strong team where you play a back 3, a front 4, sorry, a midfield 4, and then a front 3 as well. So I think it would be advisable to actually do that. I know you're not a fan of hits. I would actually say long term, I think that let's say a strong stable option that is an upgrade over Basuma is going to be a better option than having Ronaldo. So that's my genuine opinion. So it's up to you. I would definitely probably go for a City mid or even Mount at this point in time, and then pair it up with another striker. Hey Fran, nice to see you live. Nice to see you as well, Malcolm. A bit lost with what to do. Benteke seemed like a good asset, but hasn't been starting over Edouard. Also have Johnson on the bench, who will probably be out to the rest of the season. I was thinking of doing Ronaldo, Douglas Luiz out for Foden and any striker. Yep, agree with you there. I think of maybe just keeping Ronaldo on the bench, doing Johnson to Lamptey and playing him. Just don't know, taking a hit for Ronaldo's worth it if he's playing Brighton versus. So the one thing I'll say is that Ronaldo didn't look very good versus Norwich, and even though Brighton do have a lot of defensive injuries, I just don't think this United team are gelling just yet in terms of how easy they're building chances, and things won't turn around for me within a week's time. I think it's going to be a little bit of a work in progress at this point in time with United. So I do think it's justified to go out of Ronaldo. I think it's a great opportunity for you to go for a City midfielder, something like Foden, and then maybe going for Watkins at this point in time. As far as Benteke, I still think he plays because he's been rested, and it's a good fixture for him to hopefully attack Southampton. So that's best of luck to you with that kind of structure. I also took a hit to get out of to get into Ronaldo for Kane, but I think it's justified to move out of him as well. This is a great opportunity to do so. Yassine says, do you think Sterling is a better option than Foden? I would actually say I'm tempted to say no, as long as Foden stays fit. Sterling does seem to be on pens right now, which is quite a big influence on things as well. But the additional 2.9 mil, like if we think about how we actually spend that on the team, arguably in the near future, we could probably use that to upgrade something like a Tony into Antonio. So that could give you, that could give you options basically. And that's kind of what I like about the Foden move. Sterling kind of restricts you a little bit. Maybe Foden's a nice move. Foden's underlying stats are great. The eye test is great. I think Foden's a great pick. Ricky, general thoughts. Also, is the West Ham double? I think it is. I think the double up as of now is a bit overkill. You could be better served getting out of one of them. Let's have a look at your team situation as well. I think the fact that you actually have a lot of playing players this week is really nice. But I would actually still roll in your situation. But I agree with you. Let's say if you watch them versus Arsenal and you're not very infatuated with the way West Ham play, then it could be a good move to consider, let's say, even going for someone like Mount in the near future, who I think is a good pick, especially if you're, yeah, I wouldn't move out of your team structure right now. And maybe the West Ham double up could be a huge differential for you during that run. I think that since that you have playing players, also players that have done well over the course of the season, I would keep them. Who should you bench? I think you've got the best team available. I definitely prefer playing Antonio over Bowen. Maybe some would disagree, but yeah, I think you've got the right bench order. If you had to choose triple capsule and now wait until later, so I think I'll answer that. Greg's question, Fran, let's take a look on that again. 0.9 in the bank, 0 free transfers. Do you really need to take a hit? What could I improve there? Wanted to keep running and make Alan Odegaard, but I am too late. Fair enough. I guess if you really want to keep Ronaldo, I think you can just live with this team. The fact that you have a playing 11 is literally better than most people in this week, so I think you'll be fine. I don't think you need to take a hit whatsoever. Message request, I will respond to that very quickly, guys. I think West Ham double up is fine. It's not a problem, right? You want to get problems out of your team from an FPL point of view. The fact that these players haven't been playing necessarily too well lately is not a problem because you are heading into better fixtures, and that's what you go for. I wouldn't go for David De Gea to Ramsdale, not this week at least. If you have Odegaard, should you move to Foden Jota for free? I would actually prefer you moving another player potentially, if you could do that. I think Odegaard's in great form, so he's worth keeping over the next 3-4 game weeks, but I like Jota a bit more than Foden. I'm keeping David De Gea. So what do you guys think? I'm going to run a poll. Should I take a hit for Foden or not? And then who should I bench? Rafinha, Antonio. I'm not a big fan of Lukaku, unfortunately. Hey, Fran, is it safe to bank on Smith Rowe starting? The thing is, no, right? Because Aubameyang was benched last week as well, and we saw a lineup without Smith Rowe, so that's kind of my main problem there, Jellycat. As far as Jerome Brownhill to Foden for a -4, I think that's a good move. If let's say Brownhill was scheduled to actually play for you at that point in time. As far as message requests, yeah, I can check my message requests now. So YK says, any suggestions or are you fine this week? My friend, you are completely fine. Let's see. Should I bring Luis to Foden or get rid of Tony and bring Watkins to roll the transfer? I think Foden's a nice move here. Love the content. Thank you very much. Luke, love the content. Jota or Foden for Mendy. You don't have a free transfer. Got 7 in the bank. I would go for Jota because I think he has got a great fixture option this week. And there's a high chance that Smith Rowe might miss out, so that is another thing. Brought in the 3 Man U players for this game week. Any news on Broja Sanchez? No news on that. Unfortunately, I think Broja is still injured, so that's a problem. Sanchez, I'm not sure what is going on. As of now, you only have 8 players that are guaranteed in the mud. As of now, think of going Ronaldo to King, Many to Gallagher, and hoping for the best. Any thoughts? Don't want to go into Mount for no Mount since I'm never owning 3 from the same team again, except for Liverpool. Fair enough, if that's your opinion. And you do have Bernardo, so I can understand that. So yeah, I think I'd be happy with the happy with your proposed moves, Bomdilla's team. So help me. Planning Ronaldo to Dennis slash King slash Antonio and Gundogan to Foden for a -4. I'd be yeah. Yeah, I think just because of the back issue thing, I would definitely say, that could, for example, impact Gundogan in multiple ways. He can come off the bench this week. He could maybe be subbed off at 55. So not a good look for as a Gundogan owner lately. So I can sign off on those moves. Foden and Watkins 1.3 in the bank. These are players I could upgrade. Which one? I prefer option 1 there. Let's have a look at Sam. Do I only transfer out Wilson and suck up a player not playing, or should I attack the game week with a -4 to have a full 11? Do I only transfer out Wilson and suck up a player? I guess you're going for Watkins. Taking a hit -8, Liverpool Ait Nouri, fair enough. Okay, but let me see the situation first. So you got James, you got Trent, you got Cody, and then you've got a playing 4, and then you've got, well, I guess I don't know the exact situation. I kind of need to know who you're getting out of first. Gonna take a hit to get Ramsdale and Dalot next week. The one thing here that maybe I would not, I would probably keep Smith Rowe in your situation, because it seems like without dropping Ronaldo, you can't really make a huge upgrade on Smith Rowe at this point in time. So I'd probably avoid that. So yeah, I'd probably go for Dennis this week. I don't think it's a great fixture for Antonio, but we'll see what happens there. I've got Antonio. I've got all 3 players there in my team, and I'm starting all 3 of them. So, but if I had to make a pick, like, I would definitely be thinking Antonio on the bench. Made my transfer this week, bring in Consta. Any ideas where to go from here? Planning on getting Ramsdale, but anything else I should prioritize? So it's kind of nice that you actually have playing players. Maybe Broya is a little bit of a question mark that you want to alleviate or fix. So I like the Ramsdale move, but not this week, because I think Guaita has a fantastic game. One free transfer available. Was originally planning on transferring out Mbeumo and Wilson for Foden and Edouard Benteke, and only taking -4. I'm not so sure about the Benteke move. I think there's just too much rotation for Edouard or Benteke either to be worth it. United game being cancelled, you think I'm taking -8, transferring out and Mbeumo, Wilson, and Ronaldo for, yeah. I think Foden and Watkins are the only moves I'd sign off on right now this week. So if you can do it for a -4, I think that's worthwhile. Should you do any transfers, think about taking out Delo, as there are no other defenders available on the bench. Best replacements under 5.1. Okay, I see what you mean. I would rather take out Livramento though. Just because I think with Livramento, they just haven't been playing well lately, Southampton, whereas Delo, I wouldn't say United have been playing well, but I think there's more of a reason for them to have an uptrend over good fixtures, whereas Livramento doesn't have necessarily great fixtures and they've been in terrible form. So I would take out Livramento instead. As far as options, I really like Ait Nouri at this point in time, because you already have an Arsenal defender, so I wouldn't be too fussed about going for 2 Arsenal defenders. Who to get in? Benteke, Gundogan, Livramento, doubt to play. I think Benteke's fine. I think you actually keep the team that you have in place, because you have at least a playing 3, a playing 4 in the midfield, and then well, you have Sissoko coming in. Maybe if you do a free transfer, I'd probably get Watkins this week and just replace Ronaldo, and then the next week you can actually upgrade Sissoko. This is your current status. Above is your plan. Yep, I got that. That's fine. Makes sense. I see. Because if you have Tony, then fair enough. I'm not so sure about Antonio this week. I would still prefer Watkins. I just think that Antonio hasn't really looked great lately, and that's why I'd be worried. Harry Kane fan account. What transfer do you suggest? I'd probably drop Cornet. Unfortunately, do you have? Ooh, that's a tough one. I would probably -4 out of Ronaldo and then improve Cornet. Like Foden, Watkins, great option as well. If you're kind of looking at that situation, that guy dead -8 to go Foden, Gelhardt, and Bachmann for Ronaldo, Mendy, and Steele. So what's the situation here? Only Ronaldo can't play, so I would try to say play it a bit safer, in my opinion. I wouldn't go for Gelhardt now. What's wrong with just going for Watkins and then just improving someone else, maybe? I wouldn't do the keeper move. I know I did mention that it's a good move to play. I mean, it's aggressive. If you really want to do it, that's fine. There's also potential that Steele could actually play, right? So that's kind of a nice thing going in your favor. I wouldn't move out of Steele this week. Um, Lamptey playing, I have no confirmation on that. I'd rather you just go for -4, though. Should quickly go back to the chat for a second. People are quite... So I'm going to end the poll there. Seems like most people wanted to take a hit. But let's have a look at chat first. Arsenal clean sheet or Ramsdale saves seem very likely. Ramsdale saves definitely seem likely for any situation. I think he's doing very well. Brownhill wasn't going to start Fran, but I have triple Chelsea defense. I think that one will be rotated this week. I'll only have King or ESR on the bench in that case. Yeah, I can see what you mean, but it depends. Like, how do you do you even have like 3 defenders to play if you're, let's say, looking for King or Smith Rowe? Because you can only play 3 defenders, right? A midfielder doesn't come on if you only have 2 defenders to play. Bench Antonio or Gallagher. I'd definitely bench Antonio this week. Hey, Fran, is it safe to bank on ESR starting? I wouldn't say so, no. Rafinha to Mount, I think that's a good move. Rafinha out to Bowen, I don't think it's a good move this week. I don't really think it's a great fixture for Bowen. I might be wrong, but I just think that Rafinha is not exactly a problem. I actually think Rafinha could end up being a keep, basically. Nobsio, could you check my message request? I'll have a look at that. The oldest to check. Please, can you check my Twitter message request? Yep, I can have a look. So Adam, could you please advise what should be done here? Perhaps getting rid of Tony to have somebody on the bench. That would be a -4, though. I already used 1 transfer. I wouldn't -4, my friend. You have players who are playing this week, maybe with the exception to Smith Rowe, but it's worth the risk. I think you can get rid of Tony in the future for a Watkins, but you won't be able to do that without Ronaldo. So that's going to be a -8 at the minimum. I would actually just prefer you maybe took a hit the next week and then when, let's say, like kept Ronaldo as an example, because Tony could play in the weekend and you'd be in a good situation. I think you're in a good situation now, so you should kind of leave it as it is. Let's have a look at James. Hey, Fran, considering that Sterling transfer for Rafinha, I think would be safer. I actually think Foden is the best transfer this week, potentially. Maybe Sterling is a great option as well, especially when I'm thinking about Leeds, because I think with Leeds, Foden and Sterling are quick enough where they can kind of just outpace this Leeds defense sometimes when they collapse in transition. So that's what I like. If you remember some of the fixtures last year, Sterling was very incisive in the game where I think where he scored a goal and maybe had a one-on-one opportunity as well in the first 1-1 game. And then in the second game of the season, I think Foden didn't play necessarily, but Foden, of course, has transformed quite a bit as a player. So I really like Foden's opportunity in terms of how he can attack that Leeds team. Hey, man, any suggestions? Looking to get rid of Liverpool next game week, ideally. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a tricky situation here with the defender situation. Maybe it's better for you to actually go out of Liverpool now if you'd like to do that. As I mentioned, Ait Nouri is quite a good option, especially since Brighton seem to be quite hampered as a side. We'll see what happens there, though. Let's look at Azan Khan's team. So, hi, Fran, what should I do with this team? Question mark. So I think Son is interesting. I don't really know what the COVID situation there. The hope is that he plays, so probably you keep him. If you were to take a -4 for this team, I think the logical move. I don't actually know how much money you have in the bank. Can you tell me how much money you have in the bank? 30D Eugene Ward. Is this a good score? Should I make a transfer? I think it's good to go. I think it's good to go just because so many people are dealing with injuries this week. You don't really want to be, or postponements. You don't really want to take a minus hit for a hit for no reason. Maybe Smith Rowe comes off the bench. Maybe he starts, but that's really a similar situation to a lot of people have across the league where they're looking for even a player who can give them two points this week, 0.6 million in the bank. Let's see. So Son is actually holding up a lot of money in the team. If you wanted to move out of Armstrong, I would just go for Dennis, to be quite honest. Daniel, so let's have a look. Should you get rid of Ronaldo for Watkins or get Trent or Robertson for Newcastle game? I like. Ooh, okay. I'd go for Trent. I think Trent's a priority transfer. He's essential in FPL. Jared says, I'm happy to move out of Ronaldo, but I don't want to take too many hits. Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky situation. I think that you can keep Ronaldo for the Newcastle game if you'd really like, because the thing is, Bissouma can come in anyways. I think you can chill here. Um, but for me, as a Ronaldo owner previously, I would say that it's a good time to move out of Ronaldo. Um, as far as this player here, I wouldn't really change anything at this point in time. I think you can roll in the situation. You're in a much better situation compared to most, and I think you should be happy with that. Because a lot of people will be taking hits this game week. You'll already kind of get a guaranteed green arrow from having a team that is a little bit more secure from that kind of point of view. Cronin says, I've started looking at Matty Cash for Livermento. I think you're getting a little bit crazy because I just think that the Villa fullbacks have not been contributing that much in open play, and they have been scoring a lot of goals from set pieces, but Matty Cash doesn't take the set pieces from the right-hand corner. It's actually John McGinn, so that's why I don't really rate Matty Cash that much as a pick. Thanks, Fran. Appreciate it. Yep, appreciate it. Sissoko and Benteke to Gelhardt and Foden. The thing is, Benteke has a nice fixture now, and I think you have playing players this week. So I would just try roll because you're in a much better situation. Maybe by Sunday you'll have developing COVID situation, you'll have developing postponements. Having a role and the opportunity to roll when the condition is right for your team, I think you just live with that. Ayrton says, hi Fran, thinking of transferring out Ronaldo to Watkins, which allows for Saka / Douglas Luiz to Foden. Okay. Yeah, I think those are great moves. I think you just go you drop Luiz and then you do that move. All the best to everyone as well. So let's just quickly and keep De Gea. I think keeping De Gea is very reasonable, guys. We got him for the long term, and you should keep him because he still looks good as a keeper, like to own. Malcolm, start two from Bone King or Benteke. I'd go for Benteke and King, to be quite honest. I just think that you're playing at least at Arsenal's home. Benteke has a really good fixture. We know Crystal Palace are somewhat in form. Better to attack fixtures than not. 0.9 in the bank as well. Okay, thank you. Yep, cheers. Thinking of transferring Madison, taking -4 for Foden to target the fixture. I would still go for Madison because, Madison could have a really good game for Spurs because we don't know how many players are missing from the Spurs team due to COVID, right? It could be a very weakened Spurs team, and as a result, Madison is a keep at this point in time for me. And I think you're in a good situation where you don't need to be taking hits. You can get a green arrow just by not taking hits. If you're not like a lot of us who are struggling with team situations. Any news in Livermento? No, the report was basically that he gets cuts. Foden ticks along nicely. I agree. Yes. Do you guys know anything about Son Reguilon? No, nothing from my end. I'll have a look at my Twitter DMs in a quick second. Bernardo captaincy. I think that's a little bit too risky, Sam. I just don't think Leeds is actually that good a matchup when you're looking at City. I think traditionally they've actually struggled quite a bit. Up to you though. I'm never going to say a captaincy pick is wrong. I think if you're encouraged to attack the effective ownership, and you're encouraged to kind of think that someone will get more points than Salah, then more power to you. Is the Aston Villa game going to be played 100%? I can't confirm that. Foden versus Silva versus Sterling. Best City mid, considering I have none as an Mbumo replacement. I'm tempted to go for Foden. My only situation with Foden this week is if I go for Foden now, I have to take a -4. I have, in theory, a playing 11. Rafinha could do okay versus... I'm keeping Antonio definitely for the next few fixtures. So there's no real justification for me to go to Foden now. I think I'm just going to keep my team as it is, unfortunately. Hope that Steele maybe gets to play and hope that Sanchez is COVID. Apologies if you're a Sanchez owner. And then hope that Rafinha can do something versus City, which is something I don't think is going to be a lock. But yeah, I'm hoping that that's the situation that I'm facing really this game week. And then for me, though, the more aggressive picks to go for Foden, I think are very sensible. It's just a situation here where in a week where so many people are looking for like a playing 11, and I'm already kind of stuck with having to not get points from De Gea as an example. I don't really want to take an additional hit that I don't need to do. So I would prefer that transfer, and getting out of Ronaldo at least gives me the freedom to make an educated pick between one of the Man City midfielders next week. And if I really want to take a hit, then and get out of Rafinha, even though his fixtures are actually quite nice post, let's say, the Liverpool game. I don't know if I'll keep him for that long. Maybe I would start to attack fixtures after the City game just due to all the COVID issues. But I could be incentivized to actually go for something like a Mount at that point in time, or a Foden. Who's likely to get CS, by the way? West Ham, United, or Arsenal? Hmm. I would actually probably say West Ham. They've still looked quite good as of late. I'd probably start Benteke over Smith Rowe, though. Let's have a look at Twitter. So, Justin, hey, Fran, would taking a hit for Foden be worth it? Is it worth it? City double up in midfield? I think so. I think it's worth it. Yeah. All right, let's quickly just check message requests. Matthew McDonald, I'm in a bad situation. Any ideas, Fran? Yep, completely understand. Uh, I think Cornet to Gallagher first. I think so. If we go, if we look at it like this, right? We have Trent, we have James, we have Lamptey who can play. We have Guaita who's got a good matchup, so that's fine. And then you've got a chance to go between Salah, Bernardo, and then that's fine. Rafinha's fine. I think you maybe take a hit. Maybe you just go Gallagher and Watkins. Those seem like nice moves. Woodcars, thank you so much, my friend. Ramsdale, Trent Alexander-Arnold, James, Livermento, Bernardo, Jota, Salah, Mount, Antonio, King, Broja. So obviously Broja is an injury kind of concern. Thank you so much, by the way, once again for the donation. Really appreciate the support week on week. Um, so let's have a look. Ramsdale's great. Trent's great. James is good. Livermento is a bit of a tricky situation. Maybe we actually have to go to Livermento this week. Bernardo, Jota, Salah. So we have four midfielders who are good. Antonio King, that's fine. That's two. Broja is an issue. At least you've got Rafinha off the bench. Okay, so what I would do this week is, because you might not have a playing back three, I would probably move out of Livermento to someone like Ait Nouri. I know it's basically going across the pond to Nouri, but I think he is a very good pick to capitalize on the Wolves defense. So if we look at Nouri as an example, the games are really tough after this. It's Chelsea, but at least you'll actually have Cancelo back, then you can keep playing the back three, and then you have some fixtures between here that are good. And for me, the reason why I say that is just because Nuri reminds me of Livermento in that he is an enabler. So that is kind of what I like about him as an option. If we look at Nuri, the fixtures aren't great, but I think he has an okay fixture this week. You can get the clean sheet kind of maybe hopefully this week, and then you can kind of move on from there if you kind of get what I'm saying. So that might be the play, because Cancelo comes back, you play a back three perpetually after that. You're fine with Ramsdale, and then you have Rafinha this week who has a tough matchup, but then you can arguably have Rafinha next week versus Arsenal, which I'd be quite happy to own. And then your midfield's actually really strong from that kind of point of view. So I think you might have to just take a move out of Livermento just to avoid not having the three defenders. Best attack already have King and Benteke. Probably Watkins is a very good option. I think Watkins is a great pick. I have actually gone for Dennis and King. A little bit of a crazy shout. Maybe not something I'd necessarily recommend, but definitely something that I like to do because I think Watford have been creating a lot of chances. Thoughts on Dalot to White or Tompkins? I have to make a transfer, so 10 players will play. What's wrong with Guehi? Or is it because lack of money? Tompkins is not a bad pick to attack the Crystal Palace fixtures, if you'd like. If you have Ramsdale your keeper as well, I would definitely probably go for Tompkins. If you don't have Ramsdale your keeper, maybe White is a little bit of a better pick. Will the games today be played? I mean, I think so. I don't think there's any more postponements beyond United, but we can have a look at the news lately and see what's going on there. Um, Replacing Wilson. How do you not have a third Liverpool player? It's pretty interesting. Uh, I've got so much money in the bank. The thing is, I wouldn't necessarily recommend Antonio this week, and then Benteke for me doesn't seem like a keeper. I'd be tempted to roll if I were you, actually. Because, okay, so who can we play this week? So we can play Trent James Alonso White for, we can play Watkins Dennis, and then we can play Bernardo Bowen Salah Gallagher. I have no problem playing White instead of Ronaldo and save free transfer next week. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think you rolled in that situation. New team, who to bench? Oh, okay. Probably keep it as it is. Looking to transfer out Callum Wilson for either Watkins or King. Probably Watkins. Yeah, let's go back to. Oh, I think I've been answering the Twitter questions on the wrong page. I said to this person to keep it as it is. Suggested to this person to roll, and I've been suggesting to this player to get a Liverpool third player. Hi, Fran. 50 overall. 50 overall. Oh, 50K. Okay, sorry. What should be next transfers? What do you think of my team? I think your team looks good. Um, Tony, isn't it? Yep, Tony. Probably go for Dennis. I'd probably go for Dennis in this scenario. I think the rest of the team looks fine because if we get Dennis in, then we don't really have to deal with Gray this week, and then you can just bench Gray, capitalize on Gray's fixtures in the subsequent weeks if you want to go for him. In the near future, though, I would prefer if you got out of the keepers that you had in terms of Ederson. I think he's holding up a lot of money in the team. Maybe that can be used to at least beef up maybe one of Gray or something like that in the near future. But that's up to you if you want to kind of keep rolling with Gray as an example. The triple Chelsea defense, of course, is a really sticky situation. I think that it doesn't bear too much fruit. Maybe you'd like to change tact at one point in time, but I think Dennis for now is quite a good short-term move. Team looks good since I guess Davis comes in for Reguilon. Um, yeah, I think it's fine because when I look at your team, it's probably a team where in the next week you'll have a very good fixture, and this week you probably have to accept that you probably get a red arrow just because the way it's set up. I think Bowen and White are probably going to have rough fixtures. Maybe Smith Rowe will as well. Even Reguilon might not be able to play. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but whether he has COVID or not, we'll see what happens there. But for the most part, I actually like your team. I think it's just a scenario of your team is quite well set up for the future, and you kind of keep it as it is. Thoughts on Triple City? I think Triple City is a great kind of shout because of their fixtures. But the issue now with COVID is one outbreak and suddenly having three of any player is a bit tough. We all have three Liverpool players, so that's a tricky situation. But the nice thing about the three Liverpool players is the ownership is so high, you don't really suffer. Jordy Lee, hey Fran, never so if you read out my Twitter message, but thinking Ronaldo to Lacazette instead of King, what do you think? I think if you guys really want to go for Lacazette, just realize that he probably is quite an overpriced player, but he could be worth it as a short-term punt. I wouldn't keep Cornet this week though, guys, just because it seems like his injury is quite a bad issue. I can't say anything on selling Son. I would have done it last week. I would I don't know if he has COVID at all, so I have no clue. Sorry about that. The fixture is actually okay for Son, so that's the one thing I would say. But there's so much doubt and uncertainty. If you actually have a free transfer, then maybe it could be better to actually move into a Man City midfielder. Should you do Tony to Watkins and therefore then bench Rafa this week or just roll it? I mean, that's another option as well if you really want to go for Watkins and just attack this game week because Rafinha obviously probably doesn't have a great fixture. Um, I would probably start Antonio over Smith Rowe if you're in that situation. Yeah, definitely keep De Gea in our teams. Sufal, Mings, Turner, any Palace defender. I think Guehi's quite interesting. Doing Mbumo to Bowen for a hit. Is it worth another hit to do St. Maximin to Watkins? Although, uh, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do Bowen this week though. I just don't think Bowen has a great matchup versus Arsenal. And if you're doubling up on like West Ham, like I get it. It's a good future move to make. But with the kind of money you have in your bank, I would probably rather you just do that over Gilmore. Play a midfield five. I know you want to go for Ronaldo, so maybe that's why you're kind of staying away from it. Um, but yeah, I mean, if there's any week to go for Bowen, I really don't think this is the one. As far as Watkins, yeah, I'd be happy for you to do that. I'd rather you maybe skip the Mbuma move and then just live with a 3-4-3 where you play Gilmore, unfortunately. Um, because I can't really recommend a City player, right? If you really want to go for Ronaldo, because you'd be would you still be restricted from him in a few weeks' time? It depends on your situation. I wouldn't be recommending Ronaldo at this point in time, so that's the reason why I say that. If you really want to take hits, then I'd probably recommend a Foden and then something like a Watkins this week. I wouldn't remove Ait Nuri at all. I'd be happy with the team. It is a bit of a weak team in the sense that you're playing a lot of 4.x players. I think Liverpool and Gilmore are the biggest threats. So my concern is probably getting out of Liverpool. And then maybe you can just live with Gilmore. Maybe remove Liverpool for hmm. Hard to actually advise going for Spurs players because we don't exactly know what their COVID situation is, who has COVID in particular. So that's a tricky situation. Maybe if we actually moved Gilmore to someone else, but you'd have to kind of get out of Ronaldo. So that's the kind of tricky situation. Like if you don't want to take hits, basically, I think Ronaldo is the one who kind of you need to break apart so that your team can improve. Otherwise, you're stuck with a lot of 4.x players that have to play this week. So the decision is kind of up to you, in my opinion, when you actually look at your team and whether you're kind of willing to take the risk to get out of Ronaldo to improve your team. Move on from Cornet. Yeah, definitely I'd move on from Cornet this week. I'm going to hold the hand and play with 10. Yep, that's correct. Yeah, I'll just show you guys my team. Should I go for Foden, guys? Should I go for Foden? Should I go for Foden or Sterling? What do you guys think for another -4? I think Mings is the most interesting Villa defender because you don't get penalized for giving penalties away. He is always a lethal threat in terms of set pieces, and I don't think the fullbacks are creating that many chances of open play. However, I could also recommend Ashley Young, who's quite a good pick at 4.7. He's playing as a winger right now, and he's quite interesting. Livramento to Guehi, I can definitely co-sign off because Southampton look terrible at this point in time, and Guehi seems to be quite a big physical presence. But yeah, what do you guys think? Should I go? Should I go for the move to Foden? Trust yourself. Not sure about his injury. Yeah, that is the one concern there because it seems like Pep is saying he's basically continuously playing on um a little bit of like niggles, if that makes sense. So that's a little bit tricky. Like I don't know if he's constantly treading on um like water in a sense from playing too many games. But it seems like he wants to play, and we'll see what happens there. Three men's left. It's a good point, guys. Oh, always tough. Hmm. Jesus to King or Dennis? Probably Dennis, and Alan to Bernard or I like Gallagher for this game week. Fuck it, guys. Fuck it. All right, let's do it. All right, YOLO. You only live once, so why not? Let's have a look at message requests now. Okay, let's have a look. Already took a hit to take Dennis in. What to do now? All right, let's see. So we played Dennis. Okay, we played Dennis only. We played Bowen, Jota, Salah. Okay, that's 4 players. That's tough. And then we have 4 players again. So we have four. We have 4 and 1. Do you have? Abdullah, who to bench? Oof. I think this is a good team. I think this is a good team. I'd probably just swap the order of Bowen and Antonio, maybe. If you'd also like, I might favor Antonio over King, but that's up to you. 1.7. Antonio over Lamptey. I mean, there's a chance, but I just think that Wolves are missing Jimenez, so that's quite a big move. Pulling the trigger on free hit, who would you prioritize getting in? I mean, you're probably gonna have the same 3 Liverpool players. I think Dennis is not bad. Watkins is not bad this week. Benteke is not bad, but maybe you could avoid that. Arguably, Lacazette is quite good. I think anyone targeting Southampton is quite a nice matchup, so that's why I'm suggesting Benteke for one match only. Gallagher's a nice pick as well, just to attack Southampton. Maybe Mount's not bad versus Everton. I think Mount is quite an interesting shout. And then I think Foden is quite a good shout as well. And then the priority defense is probably just going to be something like James, Trent, things like that. Defensively, who would be our third defender? Would we go for a third Chelsea defender? Potentially, you could just go for Rudiger at that point. City triple up for the free hit. City triple up. So which 3 are you going for? Like Sterling, Foden, and someone else? Like who is in your free hit for City? I'm a little bit worried about City keeping the clean sheet versus Leeds. By the way, you only have one bench for this game week, Manquillo. I didn't take a hit for 5 games in a row now. That's fair enough. I think you're in a great position if you only have one bench. A lot of people have 0 bench, so that's fine. I've gone quite aggressive, gone for -8. Um, why not? What do you guys think? Antonio or Rafinha? Bernardo on those two. City triple up for the free hit. Only have one bench for this game week. Monkey, yeah, so that's fine. Bernardo on those two. Yeah, fair enough. Who's those two actually? Oh, Foden and Sterling. You're going for all three. I don't think it's that expensive, but it is what it is. Whew. Well, the deadline is over, guys. Crazy. Shocking that so many people went Bernardo this week when I think maybe Sterling or Foden interesting options. Watkins has gone off the roof because everyone's gone out of Ronaldo. I guess a lot of people are moving out of De Gea. Am I going to be hit by anything? So it seems like Cancelo's definitely out for a lot of players, which I wouldn't advise. I'm kind of happy to have gone out of Tony in time. Livermento's going down as well, which is, yeah, a good move to move out of Livermento at this point in time. No other players really affecting me. Reguilon going down, that's interesting. I guess a lot of people are just worried about the Spurs issues. Can't really do anything about that. All right, awesome. Hope you guys have a fantastic week. We'll see what happens. Hopefully Foden does well. Hopefully he transfers. I didn't roll the transfer. I had 3 United players, so I also had Cornet who's injured, so I had to go for Gallagher this week, Foden and Dennis this week. Just because I think I prefer Dennis over Watkins if I had to pick individually, and I really like Watford's ability to create chances, so that's why I've gone for that. Who would be your first choice Livermento replacement? I would say Ait Nouri, because I think Ait Nouri is a good fixture this week, and you don't have to actually start him perpetually, so why not? Took the 3 hit due to having a Man United triple plus Reguilon and Cancelo, 5 of my biggest players out. Yeah, I think that's completely fine, ZD. Gorov, you've missed the deadline, unfortunately. Good luck to you guys, though. Best luck with the green arrows. I'll probably be rocking with a red arrow this week due to taking another substantial hit, but you kind of have to do that if things aren't going your way in terms of fixtures and suspensions and stuff like that. So what can I do? I have 3 United players. I have Cornet, who's been injured for 3 weeks in a row. I've had Mendy in my team for a long time, who was on the bench, but I had always basically had two playing players. But due to suspensions and whatnot, I've had to change tact. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully Lamptey gets to play as well, and Brighton get a clean sheet versus Wolves. Hoping that basically that maybe I'm hoping that the Watford game, that Watford demolish Burnley. That's going to be my huge differential this week. It's fine if it's an unfortunate game week. That's life. Like, FPL is very much determined by luck, as long as good decision making. And some things will go your way, some things will not. I think you understand that the general climate in the world is much worse than FPL. FPL is just really a lot of roundedness interjected, if anything, and you should enjoy football first as opposed to FPL. And I hope you guys have a wonderful game week. So take care, guys. Have a lovely game week, and let's actually hope that there aren't too many kind of future COVID news, and we can kind of return to enjoying more, I guess, like simplified FPL decisions as opposed to kind of navigating around fixture congestion and being unlucky in a sense, and having to kind of resort to taking drastic hits just to attack game weeks and things like that. But yeah, take care, guys, and hope you guys stay safe.